So this week I found a very shiny pebble on the ground. It was super shiny, like super shiny. So I started kicking it and somehow it got bigger. So I had to start pushing it, which was kind of tiring, but bearable because I knew if I got it over this hill, I could stop pushing it. But then I tripped and it rolled back down and I had to go push it again. That's right, folks. If this story sounds familiar to you, it's because it's the story of Game Dev. Devlog 3. I was really excited going into this week because I felt like I made some good progress last week, and people started giving me some nice suggestions and feedback in the comments. So full of life and whimsical energy, I got into my next task, which was to change the shelves. So the shelves held the ingredients, which you could drag and drop into different zones. However, I don't know if you can see, but we're kind of cramped for space, dog, at least in this UI. So I decided to swap it into an inventory bar at the bottom, much like in Tokaboka Kitchen. After spending a totally appropriate amount of time trying to figure out how to get it to work, I got it done. Again, kept it very bare and full of placeholder art because I didn't want to spend too much time on it before testing. Very eagerly, I went to try it, and I don't actually know if I like it or if I'm going to keep it. It covered up the ingredient slots for the different cooking utensils, which is really annoying because when I was trying to test the different cooking things, I couldn't see what ingredients I'd already added. I also kind of missed collecting my ingredients from the shelves, and I liked seeing them as part of the scene. However, I'm not too sure if I'm just used to the old system, so I'd like your input on this. I also realized that I might need to refactor the cooking minigames sooner rather than later, so I added in an alternative pot game. In this game, it's just a time-based thing. So there's a bar that fills up, an indicator with where you should stop the cooking, and you just let it do its thing, keep an eye on it, try not to let it cook too long, or you'll die. Just kidding. So this wouldn't replace the main minigame, but in some instances, this is the game that would come up instead of the original one. So for menial tasks like boiling water, it would just be this. Boiling noodles would be this. I liked the time management aspect this minigame brought, which is very prevalent in restaurant simulation games like the Papa's franchise, and also since the whole goal of this encounter is to beat the clock before the fish gets too hungry and eats you, I thought a game which forces you to wait and see how you can multitask adds a bit of pressure, and also that kind of juggling the time that happens while you're actually cooking. I also added in the deprecation of the hunger bar, and I did a very quick hack and slash of my existing systems to allow me to test this out and just form some basic thoughts on this. So my findings were the time management was good, the more pressure, more stakes was good. However, again, wasn't really vibing with the inventory system. Wasn't really good. I do have an idea for my next iteration. I'm thinking of not entirely scrapping the inventory system, but maybe changing it into a toolbar of sorts. So here's what I mean. Kind of like in Minecraft. Check. Where you can put an axe and a pickaxe in your hotbar and it's easily accessible and you can use it to interact with the world. But in this scenario, you could equip different measuring tools or knife skills or seasonings so that you can bring those skills to relevant sections and make the minigames a little less isolated and a little more sandboxy. This also means that you could season at any step. Salt and pepper. But I'm still thinking about implementing this. I was also tossing up about rearranging the cooking counters. So instead of these two chunky arrows to swap between, you could have one counter stay the same, maybe a sink next to it, and then you could swap buttons for the next two zones to swap between different cooking utensils. So like having your sink, your counter, and then a cutting board and a pan, or sink, counter, mixing bowl, and pot, etc., etc. Of course, all of this to say is that I have a lot of questions now, so I need to go back to the drawing board. I think my problem this week is that I didn't use the drawing board as much, but I wanted to prototype and not ideate too much, so it's really hard to tell whether I'm going backwards or forwards, but I think it's slowly forwards. Oh well, every week can't be a win, but I learned something nonetheless. Okay, quick overview. Last week, I added in a new pot minigame, added and tested a new inventory system, and I kicked a pebble until it became a boulder and became Sisyphus. Okay, next week, my goal is to use the drawing board and not be too ambitious and get some shit done. Bye!